Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Housing Committee meeting today, April 7th, 2026. My name is Nusa Rama, and I'm the chair of the committee. Along with me is Angel Muscane, our district manager. Our board chair, Adem Briha, is also on virtually. Thank you all for coming. I just want to go through a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. To raise your hand through Zoom, click the participants icon and you will find the raise hand function there. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. The chat should not be used to discuss or pose questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record. Please keep your questions and comments brief and on topic to the discussion. Members of the public, if any, thank you for joining us. If you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. With that, we're going to start the official portion of the meeting, and we're going to call the meeting. We've called the meeting to order, and we're going to have a roll call. Angel?
Committee members, when I call your name, please answer. President Marie Charles.
Present.
David Giordano.
Present.
James Gray. John Green. Christina Johnson.
Present.
James Kemp. Jessica Morris. Nelsa Orama.
Present.
Beverly Pavon.
Oh, present.
Dawn Sanders. Loretta So.
Present.
Candy Vivas Vasquez.
Present.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for your patience. We all haven't had enough coffee tonight yet. With the next part of the meeting, we're gonna go to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any issues with the agenda? If there are, please let me know, and we'll amend it. Hearing none, we've adopted the agenda. Adoption of the minutes. Any issues, anyone with the minutes? Oh, that's great. So with that, we'll adopt the minutes and announcements and informational updates. Would you like to read them, Mr. Muscane, or shall I?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
So the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, HPD, is hosting a faith-based organization housing development class series. The series will help participants through the development process and establish necessary connections with relevant government agencies. The dates are as follows. They start tomorrow with the Department of City Planning, then on the 16th with the Department of Housing Preservation and Development, on the 23rd with the Department of Buildings, and on the 30th with the Landmark Preservation Commission. To learn more about the series and to register to attend, there's a link in the agenda. The second announcement is that there is a public comment period has been arranged to obtain comments on the second Home-ARP allocation plan substantial amendment and on the city's use of federal funds to address the continued impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the development of proposed activities. To access the plan, please visit. There's a long link on the agenda. The comment period will begin on Thursday, March 19th, and will conclude on Saturday, April 18th, so there's still a little time. The public is encouraged to submit written comments to the Department of Housing Preservation and Development's Home ARP team at homearp@hpd.nyc.gov.
Thank you so much, Angel. With that, we're gonna move to Beverly Pavone, who has a question.
Yes, in regards to section A of the HPD for the faith-based organization, I was trying to reach out to HPD to find out if when people can't make it, can they be able to see it on video later on? Because they just had one that was missed in March, I believe, that was missed. I think that's the AG. So as soon as I get some information about where we can see this video, if we can't make it, that people can go there to watch it, get the information also.
Andy?
Sometimes if they put it up on YouTube.
Yeah, I was searching YouTube. I couldn't find a direct link to it. That's why I tried to reach out to HPD. There was an article in City Limits, one of the HPD commissioner on strategic Development and Housing, that did an interview with them. So I was reaching out to her to see whether or not she can give us some type of link in case people can't make it, that, you know, we can see it later on and give the people information about it.
A question.
Yes.
So this one tomorrow, it's gonna be located?
It's on,
Zoom.
yeah, but it was one last month, I think with the Attorney General. And I would like to see that myself, you know, that information on that.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, with that, we're gonna move to presentations and discussions. You will see that number 6 doesn't have anything listed under it. I put on the table some handouts on AMI. What I wanted to do, using police, what I wanted to do was, just go through a brief discussion of what actually AMI is, as I know that we mention it quite a bit in our committees, especially in land use, in housing, at the full board, and every board member. Hello, Adem.
I'm sorry to
I did
interrupt.
share.
Is it possible, and it's okay if you don't want to, if that person from the HDFC could just talk for a few minutes? Ginger, before we move into this, she's online.
Oh, is she? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, sorry about that.
No, Ginger, you're recognized. I didn't see you online.
She
I'm
might
sorry.
need to be given, okay, she could talk. Thank you.
Great. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. As an HDFC member, I also can't define AMI, so I'm a member of that club too. So we live around the corner from you all on Madison Avenue, and we're a co-op, an HDFC co-op of 52 apartments. Our buildings were built in 1910, and we've been an HDFC since 1997. And we're on the east side of Madison, and to the north of us on 117 is a big complex that went up about 20 years ago. And on the other side of us on 116 is a sister complex that went up around the same time. I think they're the Tony and Olga Menendez apartments. In any case, they have a big courtyard in the back, it's an open space in that block, which is great. And we overlook it. The back of our apartments are right up against it. It's kind of a little concrete canyon. But you know, that's how it was built. So nothing we can do about that. Up until recently, we've had no real issue with the courtyard. Management of those buildings, or I should say ownership of those buildings, appears to have changed about 4 or 5 years ago to Heritage Realty. And with that, we've had a lot more problem with noise really late at night. There's parties all the time in the summer, but then there's also just ongoing noise at night with people hanging outside, you know, talking, laughing, doing whatever, you know, having a good time. And we, of course, want them to have a good time and enjoy their space. But we have tried many, many times to reach out directly to Heritage and also to their management company that they have set up, Locust Management. And we've asked them many times, could you come and talk with us? Could we look at the space together? Could we find a way to put some parameters up so that our residents can basically open their windows at night, particularly in the summer, and be able to sleep, because the noise is such that we cannot. And we can't get them to meaningfully engage with us on this and to come to the table or even get on the phone or even really answer our emails. They will answer when we have to write to them. They'll often answer and say, okay, we understand, thank you for letting us know, but nothing changes. So we sort of out of desperation reached out to you all to see, maybe you've encountered this kind of thing before, maybe you have some suggestions for us. You know, we're really just trying to find a way to allow them to enjoy their space, but also allow our residents to be able to have some time of quiet, particularly in the summer, when they're not, you know, constantly hearing people shouting and playing music and, you know, just enjoying themselves.
Thank you, Ginger, for bringing us this to our attention. So I'm going to open up the floor first to, well, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. In terms of the noise that you're hearing, have you called and put in any reports to the city regarding noise?
Yes, and several of our residents have done that. Many of our residents do that as well.
Okay, so you have been calling 311 regarding the noise. Can you give me an idea about how late? So you're saying the summertime, and I know that summertime is quite noisy everywhere. And so I know what I can sympathize. So I'm just curious as to, you know, like when does it stop? Does it stop like early morning when everybody that has been partying decides to go to sleep? Do you see that it stays like what's your sense of the time that they stay out making a lot of noise? I'm starting first with the summer and then I'll go, you know, during the year.
Right. So there's sort of two parallel situations, and one is kind of big parties. And those could be on weekdays and weekends, but you know, those are kind of more organized gatherings where there's a lot of people. Those since we've started asking for a little bit more control over when those go on, I think they've generally started turning off the music around 10 o'clock on most nights. And
Okay.
you know, and that we've only asked them, when you're having a large party, can you at least kind of limit or prohibit amplification and try not to have it start at like 10 o'clock in the morning and go until 10 o'clock at night. Sometimes the parties don't stop at 10 o'clock at night and it will continue with music. And, you know, that's when you'll see a flood of 311 calls. The ongoing issue, though, that's kind of more pervasive and a little bit more difficult to get a hold of is a lot of times now, every night in the summer, every night, the music might go off at 10 o'clock, but there's a group of people who really just like to hang out there. And I get that. It's nice to be outside. They're enjoying the fresh air. But because of the acoustics and how close they are right under our windows, even though I feel they probably think they're being quiet and they're not playing music, or they have it what they think is low, they will have outbursts of laughter. There'll be moments where they start shouting. And I know they're having a good time, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's ending up, you know, it's kind of waking up the people who are right over them. And, you know, it makes it hard for people to sleep basically in the building. And if there were a way, we've asked them, could you like put signs up that say, you know, quiet at this end of the courtyard? You know, and that's it. Like people sleeping, residents here, just things like that to kind of move the talking and the laughing. And, you know, frequently, I'm sure there's drinking, but I mean, you know, we're not worried about that. We're not trying to tell them what they can and cannot do. We're just sort of saying, could we move it away from the windows? You know, we're right underneath there. I don't know why. It might be because we have a really big light in our backyard courtyard. We do that for art, you know, for security, but they tend to congregate right in the corner under our windows. So, you know, it could be just a simple thing of like, hey, let's move this a little bit farther away. Or just maybe even let people know. I think sometimes they may not even know that they're audible to their neighbors. So we've kind of just reached out to say like, hey, could you even just talk to some people and let them know what the situation is? And we haven't been able to get any kind of assurance from Locust that they're willing to do that.
So I'm just gonna ask one more question and then I'm gonna open it up to the committee and to our district manager who may have some suggestions, because, you know, I'm just thinking we could try to see if we can broker some type of a meeting or send out, you know, a letter of inquiry to, what was it, Heritage and Lucas. And so in terms of, you said something about you having a light, and so or is it that you think that having the light there might give the opportunity for more of a congregation there because it's more lit?
Yeah, that could be. That might be the reason why. Just because it's easier for people to, you know, see each other. I don't think I don't have access to this area, so we haven't been in it, but I don't see a lot of lighting in the rest of it. Probably because, of course, they don't want bright lights disturbing people on the ground floor, and people are sleeping in those buildings as well. So, and again, this is in prior management. You know, I've been in this building for 20 years and head of the co-op for 10. We have a very diverse building. It's a lot of longtime residents of the neighborhood. A lot of them are seniors. A lot of them, you know, really, quite frankly, try to keep their bills down, so they don't want to run their air conditioning all the time. if they can avoid that. So, when I hear their complaints, I try to take them seriously. We are sensitive to the fact that, some people can feel policed around noise, and we're really not trying to be that neighbor. We're really just trying to say, like, is there a way you could acknowledge at late at night, these bursts of sound could be problematic for people? Maybe you could talk to your residents about not hanging out there super late, or if they're going to be out there past 10 o'clock, maybe they could move to another section.
Okay.
Um, hi, Ginger.
Hi.
My name is Christina. Thank you for bringing this issue to us. I sympathize with you because I live in a place where during the summertime, loud noises are extremely loud and disturbing to those who have to work during the week. So my question to you is it possible that you guys can shut the light off? Because maybe that will prevent the congregation under the windows.
Yeah, we could give that a try for sure.
Because what I'm hearing from you is that they're hanging out under the light so they can see, and I get it. The light is there for security, but if the light is causing people to hang out under the light and create all this noise, maybe if you try turning off the light a couple of nights and then see what happens, maybe that can be a resolution.
It could be. Yeah. We put the light up, fairly recently, and the problem somewhat predates that. Sometimes it's people like come out of one side of they're in the come out of the building on the other side, and they'll shout across to the people on the other side. So, I don't think it's too much of a security risk for us to turn the light off at night, and we're certainly willing to give that a try. I'm not sure that's the sole source of the problem late at night. I think some of it is simply just getting the management to talk to the people and help them understand what they think is not going to be a loud reaction late at night echoes off of all of this. And if they're shouting across the courtyard or even calling out across the courtyard, it does get loud. There have also been late night fights, and that's obviously quite disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
But those aren't every night.
Right. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Beverly?
Hi, Ginger, and thank you for bringing this to us also. Do you have, can you get me the address of your property?
Sure. Of our property or the properties around us?
Your property.
Yep. We're 3 buildings. It's 1775, 77, 79 Madison Avenue.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Yep.
So if I may, which is the specific building? I know you said it was named the Tony and Olga Mendez
Yeah.
Apartments? And that's on what street? I'm sorry, I'm.
That's okay. One of them is on 75 East 116th Street.
Okay.
I think it's 75 East 116th Street. And I think the other one is 58 East 117th Street. And they're much more modern than our building. We're old tenement walk-ups. So we're kind of dwarfed by them. But, there's easily got to be 200 apartments between all of them. And I don't know if there are other buildings on those blocks that also have access to the courtyard. We don't, but they probably are built with a lot better soundproofing than we are, because in 1910, when our buildings went up, there was no soundproofing. So it's just kind of a perfect storm of proximity, bad acoustics. And then, I think if we could get the management to engage with us a little bit, I think this could be resolved, because it's more a question of just saying, hey, we're here neighbor to neighbor. Could we set some mutually agreeable parameters?
Okay, so, Ginger, what I'm hearing is that with the previous management, you didn't seem to have these issues, or if they did, they will seem to be few and far between, and it seems that you think that with a change in management, things have like gone a little bit by the wayside. So, I don't know what the suggestions will be from others, but I don't have a problem with with the housing committee, the community board reaching out to Heritage and Lucas Management, or if my notes-
Locust.
right, oh, Locust.
Yeah, Locust,
like the insect.
Locust Cove Management. Yeah, exactly.
Ah, okay, here I am putting Lucas, I'm telling you, I haven't.
Everybody.
I'm telling you, okay. Okay,
And
now,
I can email it all to you. And you know, I can't say that they've never responded to me, but they wait until I complain, or you know, I other people in the building complain, and then I go, you know, they say to me, why can't you do anything to resolve this? So they wait until I send an email, and then they say, okay, thanks for letting us know. But I've asked, as I said, I've asked them several times, like, could we talk about this? Could we talk about that? Could we just get some, you know, plan going? And that's where we hit a wall. So I thought, you know, maybe they'll respond more if other people are involved.
okay, so that makes sense. I'm gonna let my board chair ask a question now, but I'm just curious, last question. In terms of the other management, um, were you having these type of issues? And if you did, were they more receptive? Did they put anything in place that may not be being followed now with the new management?
Yes, we had this pop up around 2015. You know, sometimes people change, new people come into the building, and you know, so they view it and think, oh, great, this is a great space. Let me have a good time, and they don't know kind of the history. So there was someone moved in at that time, or there was a group of people who moved in who would have huge parties all night long, kind of similar to this. And I got so many complaints that, you know, I sent them an email. And I sent one email and I just said, hey, you know, this is who we are. We're having this problem. We didn't even ask for anything. I just wanted to let you know. And the next thing I know, the problem stopped. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. What happened? And I ended up talking to our super, Ramon. And I was like, oh, you know, Ramon, like, what happened? Like, this is amazing. And he said they got the message, because of course he got this through the super network, because he speaks to their super and they know more of what's going on, of course, in all the buildings than we do. When they got the message, they told their super to send the message to everybody in the building that at 9 o'clock, the doors to the courtyard would be locked. And anybody left out in the courtyard after 9 was stuck out there for the night. And that super was hardcore, and he did it. So for years, we really had no issue because they understood after 9, it's a quiet space and don't go out there. We didn't ask for that. They did that. You know, I'd say that might have been a little extreme, but you know, that's how they handled it. And after they sold, that's when things started to change.
Thank you. With that, our chair, Adem Brija, has his hand up.
Yeah, and Nilsa, I think it's a great idea to reach out and see if we could broker or talk to management companies. I think Ginger, I think you're being nicer than I would be. Everybody has the right to have quiet at a certain time. You shouldn't have to turn off a light that you might think has security reasons to try to, you know, make this issue go away. I do think that we could talk to them about maybe 9 o'clock is early, but generally speaking, loud talking is enough of a reason to call 311 and have a complaint and have a response be made to it. Parks have certain hours where people aren't supposed to be there. So I don't think, you know, saying like nobody could be in the courtyard after midnight is an outrageous ask when it's inconveniencing people. And I also want to bring up the video that you shared. I think when I met with you about this originally, you could feel like the apartment vibrating with the window shut. So I saw that video. I thought it was a bit ridiculous. And you know, I appreciate you coming in and sharing this with us, and I'm confident, you know, that we can try to see what we can do. Nilsa's the best. So, and then I guess one last question: the 311 calls. I know we could get them probably, but it would be helpful if you could use maybe the address and go on think it's open data or whatever, NYC, and send them to the board email. I'll loop you in on an email with Nosa and Angel. Because generally speaking, that'll give us all the data about when the calls were made, what the response was, did the NYPD find a condition, with that said, if you could get that to us, that would be great to have ahead of whatever meeting we try to broker. And then I guess my last question is, when the 311 calls have been made, have the police shown up, and what has their response been? Have they verified that they see these issues? Just so we have an understanding.
Right, sure. So very quickly, I will say, we have never and we would never call on any of the kids playing out there. We love that, love to hear them. Kids' birthday parties or graduation parties, no issue with that. They don't tend, occasionally they've had some amplification, we'd like that to go away, but those kinds of community things we have no problem with, and those have never been the real issue. It's been bigger 4th of July, Memorial Day, or other parties that have just started at like 10 a.m. and gone super late. The police have come for some of those, and we have to write, like, go into the courtyard, because they'll pull up to the buildings on 116 or 117 and stop there and say no issue is found. When it's been really loud, they've gone into the courtyard and they do shut them down. It's been more of a challenge with people talking or people kind of hanging out really late and then just suddenly having a burst of laughter, because then they'll show up and they don't hear anything when they get out of the car, so they don't bother to respond.
Thank
Or they'll mark it as, nothing found here.
That's one question. Sure.
Okay.
Ginger, I have another question. Would the new management, have y'all discussed what their house rules are regarding the courtyard? Have they, will be able to give me anything like that, or have you ever received anything like that?
No, they haven't responded with any documentation. We've asked them, what's your procedure for people signing up to have larger parties? And, is there a way you could tell us, like, we're going to have a big birthday party this day, or if you give us a heads up, we could tell our people, like, hey, go to the movies that night or something like that. But it's pretty much every weekend in the summer that there's going to be all day something happening. But I don't think they have any process. I don't have proof of that, but they haven't engaged with us to that level. Those are the kinds of things we've asked them, like, do people sign up for parties? What is the deadline for parties? How are you doing this? And we get nowhere with them.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much, Ginger. If there's no other questions, thank you for informing us and sharing. I hate to say your story, one of many in this community, but it seems like when you go from a management that was sort of responsive before, and you didn't have as many issues, to one now that goes completely over with no response, that's very untenable. And we will see about putting something together, reaching out and trying to broker a meeting, so that then all parties can hopefully come to the table and come up with some kind of resolution to this. However
Great.
much we can, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I thank you all for your time and for listening. And I'm the tip of the spear. I'm speaking for the 52 other people, because that is for my sins. I am the co-op board president, but I appreciate the work that you all do. And I would say, I think we have realistic expectations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you say 52, but I'm sure if there are other people there, you're actually really more than 52. So you can think you're probably like 150. So you're actually much larger than you are. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay. We're gonna move on to that was a presentation of, discussion about a community concern. And so now I'm gonna go back to my little handout presentation. So, every time, like, we are either at a full board meeting or with a committee meeting, or depending on where we are, so it comes out AMI. And so AMI is area median income, right? And so the area median income has been established by a certain process. It's a federal calculation that happens. And so what I did was I had a whole bunch of handouts, and I said, you're all gonna hate me. So I narrowed it down to 3, right? And then, so what I did first, I got a cheat sheet from ANHD, and they're a housing, development, company. They fight for affordable housing, everything there. They do trainings, they do a lot of stuff. So they happen to have a 2025 AMI cheat sheet. So what I wanted to do, I printed it for you so that you can see a little bit of the maximum income rents, so you can get a sense of what is used and what is classified as AMI, right? So very extremely low income, the area median income in New York City goes from 10% to 30%. And so what they then did was they got information and they broke it down. Share of renter households, that's over here in this little section over here. They did share of rent burden households, what they came out with from other sources that they put together. And then maximum income of a 3-person household, and then max affordable rent. So if I was if I applied for housing and my income was roughly $43,000, I would classify, if the development has extremely low income and used those from 10 to 30% of AMI, and I have 3 people in my family, I would be able to apply because my income is 43,000, which is less than 43,740. And what I would expect to pay, depending on the size of the household, whatever, is $1,000 from 1,094. So what I wanted to show you that extremely low income, it's classified, if you make $43,000, it's classified as extremely low income, but depending on who you talk to, they consider it like, oh, that's okay, you can live on that. And so I just wanted you to have a visual of what, when we talk about AMI. Then I went on the next one, this is from HPD. I went on the HPD website, and I just copied and pasted their information in a bigger kind of thing so that you can see that for a family of 3, if you are applying to a development that is 60% of AMI, right, that they're using that calculation in their funding and their programs, use 60% of AMI, your income for a family of 3 would have to be $87,480 for that unit. And it seems like when we're talking about AMI, then you have the second page has the income bands, and then how do you use the chart? So we did, the second page has unit size and bedroom, so you could get a sense of what rents will actually look like depending on the funding that you are using. And then there's websites after. I can send everybody this so that the links are active if you're interested in reading, because you ain't gonna type this in the search bar and get it right? The last thing, and then we can discuss it a little further. The last thing was I found an article in 2019. I found a whole bunch of articles that talked about the history of AMI, but I didn't want to drive you all nuts. And so this one seemed like it was fairly decent. And it was like, it talked about it, how if you've ever applied to affordable housing, trying to figure out if you make too much, too little stuff. So it talked about how the AMI is calculated. It talks about how this is really a federal calculation. And so when people say, you know, you've got to change the AMI, or we've got to talk to somebody in the city, change the AMI, that the city that cannot change the AMI. That is a federal calculation that comes from HUD all the way in Washington. That has to be changed by a congressional act, right? And so you have to, right? You have to get into this whole thing. So that's why it's not easy to change it. But when you have, talks a little bit about the controversy about AMI in New York City. What I wanted to bring out was that although when you see the area medium incomes and you see them high, and you know that in our area may not be, understand that the developers can be guided by the funding streams they're looking for the projects, and can put in lower AMIs depending on who the target audiences are, right? And so sometimes there's other ways. It's not just, okay, you know, this area is 60%, so every project is gonna be 60%. No, it's depending on the funding, what they're trying to get at, who they're trying to support, what are the, if there's transitional housing, if there's affordable housing, if there's like, let's say, home ownership, depending on what the funding streams are and the finances, you can have a mixed use, and your AMIs could be different to support the healthiness of, of a project. So with that said, I just wanted to give you all something to look at, because I know like in the full board meeting, you'll hear other phrases, and I can bring some information next month on, okay, well, the area median income is this, how can they expect us to afford it? The fact of the matter is that there are people in this community who can afford certain rents that are being out there. And unfortunately, affordable housing, you have maybe 25% what they classify affordable, which you always have that phrase after affordable to who? Well, exactly right? Because, this calculation was affected when it first came up by other counties like Westchester and Putnam. But the fact of the matter is that developers can find ways by mixing and matching to make sure that they can bring down at least some affordability. There are projects that are all done with LIHTC funds. And so you have projects, and a lot of those you see for seniors that are like from 0 to like 30%, where that's what that whole project is. There's, I think, one in the Bronx that I can't remember the name right now. So I just wanted us to become a little bit more aware and understand it a little better, so that when questions get asked, we sort of know, right? Like like we can't just change that. That's not just, the city can't say, okay, we're gonna, you can't abolish it, not like that. The last full board, there was a question on Mitchell-Lamas, right? Mitchell-Lama was a very strong program that was run with the state. And now the state still has a decent, strong Mitchell-Lama portfolio. However, a lot of them have gone out of the portfolio. They've managed to, and so I know 1199 is still a Mitchell-Lama. Franklin Plaza is still Mitchell Plaza. Lakeview's a Mitchell-Lama, but it got assistance with, I can't think of the name of, right. And so.
With what?
Sticky vouchers.
Right.
Sticky vouchers?
City voucher.
Oh, no, sticky vouchers.
Mhm.
What's a sticky voucher?
Sticky vouchers. You can, if you move out of that apartment, then it becomes at a market rate. It's kind of like, complicated, because if you're gonna move out, that you can't take that with you.
Yeah, it's not like a Section 8 voucher, like if you have a Section 8 voucher, that's for you,
Right.
everywhere you
can go
go.
anywhere.
But that's not
Right.
Section 8 based either.
Right, no, it's a different program that I can't think of the name
The
right now.
rent becomes then at a market rate or whatever, whatever it is for
Remember the
that
name?
apartment.
But,
I don't know if they still doing that.
right,
Because I know.
I remember when it first, right, I remember when they
I
were
don't
first.
know if they still doing it.
Right, I remember when they were first coming out of they were still Mitchell-Lama, but they were having so many issues. I think it was SBI who came and did his like little public speech, and I can't remember the name of the vouchers. It'll come to me when I'm not thinking about it. And so they were offering that to a lot of the residents, but prices are going up everywhere. 1199 right now has a major issue in terms of, I think they don't think that they had to pay Con Edison. And so there's millions in arrears for 1199, right? And so there's a lot of stuff happening, but I figured starting from now as a refresher, right? I bring a little bit of an AMI kind of thing, and then if we have questions, I will say that we have Candy. We're lucky to have Candy here. Candy is the CEO of 116 Block Association, and she has built affordable housing, and so she understands a lot of the mechanisms. So if you have questions, go to her.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You too. You too, don't say yourself.
I'm just saying, right? And so then what I'm gonna try to do is next month, since we've mentioned Mitchell-Lama and it came up at a meeting, right? I'm gonna try, there's a Mitchell-Lama Coalition. They put out a monthly newspaper. The person who was doing all this just recently passed.
She did?
No, the guy, I can't think of his name. And so I think as housing, right, we should try to become as aware of the different types of housing and what the issues are. So I don't wanna, unless we have a question on AMI, you can read it on your own. But I think next month, I would like to just bring a little background information, depending on how presentation heavy we are. Just a little information on the background of Mitchell-Lamas and who in the city is currently still in the portfolio. Like I said, New York State still has quite a bit in their portfolio, but the city, maybe for a lot of different reasons, where you have the opportunity to privatize or, to raise rents or however, after a certain period of time, you can pull out of the program. It seems like a lot of Mitchell-Lamas have chosen to, maybe not a lot, but quite a few have chosen to get out of the program, but we still have at least 3 that I can think of right now, and that we should at least become educated, because someone will come to us. Like, I'm from 1199, here I am. Leslie Colon is from Franklin Plaza. You know what I mean? And so you're gonna be hearing about different things that are affecting.
And I grew up in Mitchell-Lama on the west side.
There you go.
and When the mortgage was paid off, we bought out the apartment.
Mm-hmm,
Were very inexpensive.
mm-hmm,
And there were conditions that if you bought it, be honest, we bought an apartment for $8,000, 3-bedroom on 94th in Columbus,
Mhm.
private. But if you sold it within the first year, you had to give back 35%
mm-hmm.
and 30%, and then when it settled at 15, after 7 years, well, sold it, but it's that.
And so 1199, not to belittle the Mitchell-Lama conversation, but so 1199, because of its financial difficulty, the tenants who are there, the cooperators that are there, bought their apartments for very little money, depending on what it was and when you bought it. So now one of the ideas that has been broached in several meetings, and I missed the last one, is that your first sale. So if I bought an apartment, let's say for $1,500, if I go to sell it, I can sell it, and 10,000 of that would go towards the building. The building would immediately take 10,000 off the top, even though they didn't sell it to you for 10,000. But they would immediately take it off to find a way to create reserves for 1199. There's several issues that I have with that, and one of them is, if you were tied with the Mitchell-Lama program at one point, where if you bought the apartment, you can only sell it for that amount, right? And if that's still in place and you get someone to buy it for 10,000, what does the cooperative get? His original investment? You see what I mean?
Mhm.
If they're still under that program, or how will it work? Because if you get, let's say, whatever you get for your apartment, good luck trying to find another place to live with whatever you got there, because you're not, that'll be a down payment or something, and then you still got to find the rest. And if you're my age, I'm closer to death than life. So the truth is, right, that wherever I go, I have to make sure I afford it. And so those are some of the key issues that we should start educating ourselves on. So at least when we have people come in and talk to us, we can respond better, right? We can ask right questions, so that people just can't come in here and just talk to us or talk at us.
Mhm.
It has to be a dialogue, and this committee would work really well, and it has in the past, with land use, because land use is the beginning and we're the middle and the end, right? And there has to be, and that's something, whether myself as chair or the next chair can work towards creating meetings where things are discussed from the very beginning here. There are things that are going to be discussed in land use tomorrow, that will touch housing if it goes through, right? And so having that conversation at the very beginning so that developers know that there's an A, B, or C. It's not that we come and we get things passed through ULURP or as of right, and then we'll come and do one presentation, but then that's it. That there's going to be a follow through from the beginning, because housing is also at least viewing the meeting, if not obviously part of the thing, but becoming educated enough so that then they can pick up the baton at the next step. Because as land use is trying to affect and housing, depending on the presentations, on more affordability, on changes in numbers, and there has to be a follow through where we then hold people responsible to continue to report, because there are developments that have come to us, have been built, have been presented a certain way, and after years of running it or a year or two, all of a sudden they're not financially as stable as they thought, and services that they were supposed to give, they're not giving. Security that was supposed to be 24 hours becomes 12, and then before you know it, security becomes virtual or becomes non-existent, yet we don't know, and that goes on and on. And how many 311 calls have we had on buildings that we've approved that we don't even know? So those are just things that I'm going to shut up now, but those are just things for us to think about, right? Because housing touches everything. If you don't have a housing, right, your kid can't go to school well. You can't have good mental health, right? Because you're worried about your instability. So we are the committee, I feel, I'm biased, but we're the committee that is the foundation, right? Now, if you talk to public safety, if you're not safe, you can't do anything else. If you talk to human services, if you mental health thing, then you can hold on to your housing and that. But, looking for us to come up with ideas. Listen, all of you see this little agenda here, wherever this agenda is, all of you can give ideas for the agenda. Every single one of you is an expert in your own way, on your own things, right? This isn't the keeper. I'm not the keeper of the agenda. Neither is Beverly, right? So please, I'm going to send everybody my email again. I think everybody has it, but I'm not sure, right? Because we get everybody gets the same email, but then we're all hidden. But I'm going to send everybody my email, right? And please, let's think, we're gonna have a presentation next month, right? But let's think of what you want to see, because this committee is only as good as its members, right? And what you might have a concern of, I don't know, right? Because I don't have your experience. What you've talked to other people, I don't know. But if you want to share it, then we can come up with a timeline of, well, in May, we want to do this. In June, we're going to do this. July, we may be off, but we can create something so that come September, we already have robust agendas. Who do we want to come back to report to us? Or do we have questions of the new projects? The MEC, I think is the MEC coming tomorrow to talk a little bit, and land use. So that project is the project on 125th Street, and it's a huge project. It's something that we've waited for. It was arts and culture and stuff like that. And some of it has been built, but some other parts of the project were stalled. And it now seems like it's taking steam, and it might be an amazing project with different emphasis. That's something for us to know, or at least become familiar with, because guess what? If that goes through ULURP or whatever, you're all going to be voting on it. So with that said, all I want you to know is that this committee is your committee. This is not my committee. This is me just sitting here talking, babbling on. This committee is what we make it. Everybody here has a part in giving ideas, giving criticism, giving suggestions. That's what I want from you. And so I'm going to send everyone my email, because I thought I did, but I apologize if I haven't. I'll also give you my cell. I apologize if I haven't. And with that, I'm gonna give it to my Vice Chair Beverly to add anything she would like to add. Beverly?
Oh, now, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, in regards to the AMI, I want everyone here to understand that, it goes up every year. Every year, the federal government do an analysis and it goes up. And 2019, I put on my position. But,
I can send you those because I cut it
Yeah.
out because I said I didn't want to
You
confuse
can-
you all with the
you
2019
can-
figures. I gave you the 2025, but then you can compare
You
if you
can-
want.
Twenty twenty-six already came out March 31st.
Okay, so,
Yeah,
okay, so we can compare.
so those numbers are going to increase. When people were making for a family for $80,000 and it's low income, is now more closer today to like 60% of the AMI. So even though you were making 80,000 back in 20 whatever, that was good money, it's not anymore. So the fact that the mayor just had that report put out, how much it costs,
Yeah.
in order to stay, in New York City, you have to be making $159,000 plus, for a family of 3 or
Mhm.
4, in order to survive here in New York City. In East Harlem right now, the figures for East Harlem residents is like $40,000 a year.
Mhm.
40,000. So when we talk about housing, we have to think about that type of housing.
Mhm.
Because it's tied to the AMI, and not all the time. I know we always talk about AMI and how that's financing buildings, but there may be another option for financing buildings, especially when it's city-owned properties that I'm looking into regarding cost-based rents. It's almost like the Mitchell Lama and the Till. It's not for profit. You're only doing the rents in order to maintain the building.
Mhm.
So if the city owns these properties, we don't have to go to acquisition for that property because it's already owned by the city, which takes off a big, huge chunk of buying housing because it's already owned by the city.
Mhm.
So I think we need to see about other options that might be open besides AMI, because each year it goes up. And people that's making, like I said, $80,000 back then, for a family of 4, you gotta be making $120,000 now for a family of 4 and be low income. So where we at now on this chart, give it a few years. That person who's making, where's the rent? The AMI. That's making 80, you have,
This one?
is that for the, yeah. Yeah, for a family of 4, right, thank you.
Mhm.
So a family of 4, 80% of the AMI is considered low income. Then you got 30% is very extreme or extreme low income, and then low income. So it's like 3 stages of that before you do 80. After 80, it's not low income anymore. So each year that you're looking at this number for a family of 4, at $80,000, 80% of the AMI, you have to be making $129,600. That used to be $80,000
Mhm.
back in the day.
Wow.
So each year it goes up, and it goes up way faster than the residents' incomes here in New York and East Harlem. Another issue is that they have, in East Harlem, we have the issue regarding the federal property line. That's another issue, and we're very low on that line also. So we don't have the income even for the houses that we say are affordable
Mhm.
right now. So that's something we need to consider even in land use when the developers come to us. When we ask for deep affordability, we have to keep in mind what the residents are here now. And only 20% for right now is preferred reference for the housing. That's another thing, and that's gonna go down to 15%. So it's a lot of things that we have to consider when we give these developers, yes,
Mhm.
for housing when it comes to affordability.
Yeah,
And we have to keep these things in mind, because they change, especially, and most of the time, AMI is part of it, but it might be enough. Let's look to see if there's other things that we can get without that
Mhm.
cost-based housing or cost-based rents.
yeah.
Might be something to look into, especially for city-owned property, which they're giving away very quickly. Because the city can do the houses themselves, they have everything and at HPD, architects, soft costs and all of that. So I think we can just keep our eyes open, look for other alternatives, know how much this goes up each year for the federal government from 25 to 26.
Mhm.
And you just said they just put out the new AMI for this year. So see how much that, it's usually at least $1,000 increase. And East Harlem residents are not getting that.
Yeah.
We're not getting that, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, it makes sense what you said. Unfortunately, though, in order to do projects through HPD and everything like that, they look at AMI. You
Yeah,
know, they look at different term sheets, they look at different programs, and they use the funding what they get from different programs to try to make the AMI, like, just because you're given area medium income, not every developer follows that, where they say, okay, we're doing 30%. They find ways to bring in other programs and other buckets to lower the cost or make the rents more affordable depending on what it is. I don't ever see them going away from area medium income. It's been here, since it was established. But I do think that we need to understand it better to understand what is out there. Like, are there other suggestions that the developers or other ways, maybe getting a sense from having a developer come in and explaining their project from like how they came up with this, right? Like, this is the project, and not for us to say, well, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that. It would be more from just a tactical standpoint, understanding, okay, you got this project. What was the considerations in how do you fund the project? How did you decide that this was the most cost effective way for you to get this built? What are some of the challenges that you face in trying to get private financing? What are the requirements for private because don't forget, in order to get loans, you also have to satisfy what they're looking for. Like, if you have commercial space, well, how much do you anticipate your commercial space making for a certain period of time that'll go towards that whole assessment of whether your project is feasible, right? So, there are different models that have come up. The community land trust, the East Harlem Community Land Trust, was a project done by Picture the Homeless that started with Lynn Lewis pushing it through and others. And now the East Harlem Urban Community Land Trust is very viable in that it already has 4 buildings, and there are other buildings that would like to join. But you have to have, you have to have economies of scale in order to make that work. If you have an affordable building that's all, let's say, LIHTC, which is the lower income housing tax credit program, and you have it, let's say, from 0 to 30%, you have to realize that that is what's coming in. So you have to have other ways to supplement that rent, because as costs go up, you have to pay for the building has to pay for water, has to pay to save you if you're paying, gas, whatever it is. So that's why you see that developers do a lot of times a mix where they have low, medium, and market rate, apartments in the same unit in order to make that project financially stable. So sometimes you have people say, well, it should be 100% affordable and it should only be this amount. That's fine, but you have to think about the integrity of the financing for that project. I know that Picture the Homeless, I don't know if I still have that game, I'll look for it, but it was actually creating how would you come up to build a building, and all the different things, and we did it at a training with Nicely, all the things that you had to do that will go into you making that property affordable and being able to live in perpetuity, right? So from a gut standpoint, we think about everything has to be as cheap as we can get it, right? And that's initially, right, what we should do, try to find housing as good as it can be, as low as it can be, so that more people can get housed, right? That's the goal. But then you have to think of 20 years down the line, the building is falling apart. There's no money for repairs. People, like that's what happened. That's what's happened in NYCHA. And people in NYCHA are spending a lot of money on rent. They're not, it's not that they're living and they're giving $50 a month and everyone who lives there's, oh, I don't think so. It's not this, it was originally supposed to be starter housing where you would move in and you'd be there for a while. And then when you get yourself situated, you would then move on to maybe you buy your own place or stuff like that. With economies, it became our permanent homes, right? And so the city is the worst landlord. This rent rip-off stuff that they talked about, I'll go into that in a little bit. You have been the worst landlord. City of New York, I don't care who you are. You have been the worst landlord because once federal monies were pulled out or lessened, the state did not come up with ways to continue to make NYCHA viable and affordable. And people who pay their rent to go for months without cabinets or without stoves or gas, or their elevators are broken down or their doors are broken, and you keep saying, oh, it's because of the people who live there. I get that, but let's try to come up with something else, because the people who live there or should have security. Everybody wants security, right? So I'm not going to go on the NYCHA bandwagon now, but all this is to say that in my opinion, housing can't just be about presentations. Housing has to be about giving ourselves knowledge so that wherever we are, even if we're not part of the housing committee, we can have a decent discussion with people to show that you're the best advocates for this community in anything. That we are not ignorant of what other people take as commonplace. We should know about our Mitchell-Lamas. We should see how it started and what has been the issues of Mitchell-Lamas. And the promise of Mitchell-Lama was great, and it promised a lot. But then in the daily reality, like $11.99, affordable apartments, very inexpensive. You don't pay Con Ed. Now, you live in a 3-bedroom apartment and you don't pay Con Ed, but you got lights, right? Or nowadays we have computers. We have families that have machines that they need to breathe, their asthma machines. You have ACs, right? Your kids are playing video games, right? You have Netflix and you can watch TV all night. Well, who's paying for that? Nobody was paying for it, but in like say at $11.99, you wake up one day, you owe all this money, you get money, you pay it, and it's a small amount, then you give an increase, and you give an increase for a couple of months so that it could pay utilities, you assess the utility costs, and then afterwards you take the utilities off. Hello, how did that make any sense? So I'm not gonna go on and on. All I'm saying is, fellow committee members, that I and Beverly and all of us, we are all on the same page here. We are all on the same page. There's no one who has more knowledge, less knowledge. We got different knowledge. And I would appreciate you sharing your knowledge and any questions that you have, so that that will help us inform the agenda.
Well,
Andy, and then you.
so I think that we could, also advocate by reaching out to the Congressman Adriano
Okay.
and, other neighboring, Congress, members to write a letter to HUD, or even investigate with HUD how, they can come to the table to talk about, at least holding down the, just like when we say, well, the rent income guideline board, to try and hold down on the rent increase, and they can do the same thing with the AMIs and, separate those three counties that really does not help right now today. Maybe years ago that worked, that formula, but not in this world today that we live in. And I say that because that's, I mean, Westchester County, Rockland County, these are people that are upscale more or less, and I'm not these people, I don't mean it like that. But, individuals that could afford to live in housing, they pay, but they also pay property tax, they pay school tax. So how is it that, where does New York City benefit out of that? And if they do, then they should give us that understanding to see how is it that we're benefiting in the housing piece, that they're paying their taxes, how we're getting a bit of that. And then at the same time, have Adriano send a letter to even get a hold of the chairman of HUD, because I mean, it's affecting our community where the rent right now is not by income, because if it was income based, everybody will be able to afford their apartment.
Mhm.
But the fact that that's not happening today, everything is rent based. And so even, this is how it was even hurting the landlords, homeowners and managers about how the rent is actually being paid, because the higher you make it, this individual is not
Can't
making
reach
that
it.
income. And the reality is, it's nobody is winning here right now today, no one at all, except Con Ed.
They're
Christina.
not even winning right now.
Con Ed, we have nothing against you, and maybe you'll come to one of our meetings.
So I really just had a point of information. I had another idea in my head, but I kind of got to fine tune it because it was just a thought that kind of floated through. We're having a town hall on 1199 not at 1199. It's going to be at PS 146. So I wanted you to know so that you can comment regarding the Con Ed, right, sponsored by Assemblyman Gibb.
There was one that he had done before, and it was, right, there was one that he had done before at PS 46.
Right.
It was a Friday.
Is
a
that
couple
on
of weeks ago.
106 and
106 and First?
and First?
So
Well,
he
that's
had-
where this one is
Right,
at.
he had done one.
Mhm.
He came, I couldn't come because he started from 5 to 7.
Right.
And so by the time that I would have gotten there, it would have been 6:45. You had to RSVP to get in. So it'll be interesting to see if it's still the same time frame, 5 to 7. So that will knock out people who work.
I will be there.
Right. So
I will
that's
be
good.
there.
So
But
there you go.
I have family that live in 1199 as
Right.
well. So I
Right.
will be there as family member and as
And if I can, I'll
representative.
try to see if I can,
Mhm.
do coverage.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you said that, because I had another article, which I didn't include here. And I don't remember the name of the program, and Angel probably knows, but I don't want to put him on the spot since he's sitting there so quietly. Where it was talking about, but I will, there's a program, there was a program where, they talked about AMI, but in this article, and it was it might have been a 2018 article, where they actually talked that there's a program that actually looks at, like you're talking about affordability, right? And so AMI, the affordability, but they actually look as a different name on what you make and they consider what you actually pay with utilities to get a real sense of what you actually can afford. I'm gonna look for that article. I don't remember the name of it.
Simulator?
Right, it was like, it was,
These people were doing it before too, AHMD.
right, so
They
it was,
also did
it was in an article and it named the program. I gotta look at it. Maybe I got it in here. But, that's one thing that we're not considering. And I'll give you an example without me naming names. Someone won an affordable housing lottery and they went in and they have a studio. The studio cost them $784. They've already had several increases. And the person doesn't apply for DRE, even though they're disabled, because they get some outside assistance by a family member who helps them pay some bills. And they're afraid that it looks like they're cheating the system by, and I don't know if that's true or not, right? But it looks like they're cheating the system. The utilities that they use, that I mentioned it before, and I think I mentioned it in land use, the utilities that they use is very high. It's in a private luxury building in East Harlem. And so if you don't watch what you're doing, right? Like if you plug in things, your bill can be $300, $400, $500, $600. Now, so I think that's also a question that has to be looked at. You can get an affordable apartment, but if the utilities are through the roof and you only make a certain amount, what is out there? I know there's the heat program and stuff like that, but what is the question of affordability is my question, right? Like, just because you can scrounge money together to pay your rent, but can you pay the utilities? Will you be out if you can't pay the utilities because you're paying your rent, but you can't pay the utilities? So now you're in arrears. And do you get a one-shot deal just for utilities, and it just perpetuates? And people are not thinking about those kind of costs that actually also affect affordability when your rent doesn't go up. And to speak about what you were saying about Adriana Spiat, in one of my articles, I'm gonna look for it now when I shut up. Senator Serrano, I believe it was Senator Serrano, the father, not the son, had brought up some legislation.
He was a
Congressman.
Congress.
Yeah, his father was the
I
congressman.
gave him an uplift. Congressman Serrano had done some kind of an act in Congress to address the AMIs in like 2016 or something. It did not go through. But just to give you a sense that even then, someone from this district was thinking about how it affects us. And so I may have the articles here. If I do, I'll make everyone a copy. So that speaks to what you were saying.
Okay, but Adriana, Serrano and I had that conversation back then. So, yeah, I appreciated that he at least attempted to do something
See?
like that.
This is the article I'm talking about. This was done in 2016, and I'll send everyone. In 2016, they were talking about Congressman Jose Serrano wrote in December to U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro to ask that HUD assess the impact of more accurate AMI measurements in New York City. So as far back as 2016, this was a conversation. It should always be a conversation, but that was a conversation then. I'm trying to see if I find that program.
So,
But this talks a little bit about carve out for counties. This might give you a little bit more history.
so maybe you could share that with us?
Yeah. I'm gonna email
Yeah, I'm
it to
glad
you, or
that
do you want
found
more
that.
paper? Say you don't want more paper. I'll email it to everyone. Email.
Yeah, please.
Mhm.
You know something?
Yes,
Can I
ma'am.
just mention something as
Of
well?
course you can.
You know
You're
what's
part of this
also,
committee.
is gonna affect us, is the, local law 97. Okay, cause that's the, like, right now.
Explain that
this
to
is-
everyone who may
yes,
not know Local 97.
the AC, HVAC, we have to now, and this is a problem. It's not just for the building owners, but the tenants themselves, because now it's like you can control your AC and your heat, but the electricity is gonna be going off the roof. And it's like Nelson said, either you're gonna pay your rent or you're gonna pay your electricity, which one you gonna keep on? Because I mean, it's still, either way, you're gonna have it on all year round. It's not like an AC, you turn it off and then by the season, you gotta think about the AC now, because I think they just passed a law where
Here
landlords
it
have
is.
to supply AC.
As
But that's part
the-
of, all right, so the utility, you know, so who gets that? And then if everybody's going, electric, but that's the thing, this is what I'm saying, Con Edison is the one that's winning. Is, you know, I can understand for the
We're gonna have-
environment,
Mhm.
but it's
for the
not
pocket
working in,
parts,
Ryan,
it's
it's
not
not
working.
It's because they wanna do this whole climate change, but the truth is that worked in 2019. But 2020 came and it just like, it did a landslide economically to everybody, you know, so I just feel like that whole local 97 should be on hold for 1 minute until they could really assess and see, have a look at it again, do a new assessment and see how that's gonna work, because it's a big impact right now. And financially, I'm telling you, I've been seeing different, ways to how it could be less, like they have to come up with some voucher or something to help families pay up for that Con Edison bill. Cause it shouldn't be that then the landlords have to tell the residents, we're gonna give you this, we're gonna install it,
Right?
because
But now you gotta pay for it.
Right, but now the other thing is that some people have to pay for that equipment, right? Even if it's just like, let's say there's a, AC unit light, but then it's $900, they're gonna then attach, that, then the residents pay $200, and then the rest get put in by the owners. That either way you put it, it's still an expense that no one has right now to add more to the cost burden of what's happening towards the rent and cost of living, so.
Especially seniors over there.
So we definitely need to be a big voice on that, and I'm not trying to down the city council for trying back then for the climate change, but today,
Doesn't work.
it's not for no one right now.
Because we're only geared toward using electricity. We have no other option. They taken out gas. So my
And
thing,
imagine in a blackout, then what you have.
I brought that
A
up.
lantern.
Backup plan.
A
But
battery
then you need a
operated
solar,
lantern.
then you still need solar panels, so
Yeah.
it's a lot going on that,
a lot.
really has to be well thought out. And next time city council is gonna bring out something like that, I think that they should have a town hall in every district of theirs to let us, let the people really know, not by the internet, go old school, send letters to the people, let them know, hey, this is what we're gonna bring down and we're gonna vote on it. What do you think about it? Not during the election day that nobody looks in the back and votes on those things.
Right?
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just a lot of stuff going on right now that if we're not educating our own people, what's happening with these changes, how it's gonna impact us, we're not gonna know, but I wanna just, talk about that, let you guys know that local 97.
So those
I'm not
are
a fan
things,
of it, right?
so those are things that will help inform our agenda, right, on things, Loretta?
Yeah, it is interesting you talk about that because of the fact that we had nitrogen development that's been taken over by fat.
Hmm.
And, at nitrogen, you don't have to pay electricity or gas. So it's interesting to see what happens now that we have been taken over by fat.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because-
people feeling that impact of maybe we do have to start paying electricity.
Or at the very least, ask the question, what is your vision to, like, for energy, right? Like, are you going solar? Is your project going incorporated different things through LEED, to get certain classifications that will allow the building to be more energy efficient? Will you have a green roof? Will you have solar panels? Like, are there different things being built in that will help do climate control through all the apartments, right? Like, so that heat can stay steady. Are your windows gonna be super paned so that you don't feel that cold in the winter and can stay cool in the summer? So those are questions, right? Like, how do you anticipate the long-term fiscal healthiness of this project if we don't, like, let's say you never did before, right? NYCHA, I grew up in NYCHA. I lived in Johnson and Lehman, right? We never paid that, right? And so when 1199, when I moved into 1199 and I didn't pay there, I was like, oh, this is great. You know, we don't pay it either. But now millions dollars down the line when you owe
They
for
have to
Con
pay
Ed,
for the whole way, the public space.
right?
So
But
you
we
still
never,
gotta pay them.
right? But we
So
never
how
paid it.
management, but not you, but management has to pay that.
Exactly. So then that's the
And
question,
you're
right?
like, oh.
Yeah, you don't want
Like,
that.
nobody's
What
going-
what is the plan, right? Like, is this something that you're never gonna pay, which would be great? Is this something that all of a sudden it's like a balloon payment where you don't pay, you don't pay, you don't pay, and then at the end it's like, okay, boom. 1199 has just put in a 40% maintenance increase, and it has been approved, and it will take effect within the next 4 years. Do you know what it's like to get a hike of 40%
Think
immediately?
about it.
And they still may not charge light? Are you kidding me? So there's a lot of problems there.
Mhm.
So those are the kind of things that we should become better educated with. It's gonna be 8 o'clock, and I don't plan to hold you all longer than this. But I do also have some other handouts that I did not send you. I will send you by email. This is the New York Rising. This was in 2022 from the New York Housing Conference. New York's rising area median income, a growing concern for New York City's lowest income renters. But let's be realistic. This is the method for determining financing and affordability. This is not going to change right away. It doesn't matter how many, if we start doing marches, that's not going to change it. But we have to become better educated and understand how projects are affected. Like, and if there are ways that the city can start looking at things that already they do different things. They don't just go by AMI, the exact number and stuff like that. But there may be, other suggestions like you're saying. Maybe the Congressman SPR can do something this time, and a suggestion. I'm sorry, Congressman SPR. But like hearing our concerns, right? Like, exactly, just like where we are. Can you inform, like if we have questions, maybe people can have some answers or think about having answers, if not right now, in the future. So,
In regards to the AMI, there's not, what I'm researching is that there's two ways the AMI is put in place. One, HPD uses the phrase regulatory agreement in two completely different ways. The federal AMI regulatory agreement and the HPD program
the terms.
governance of these like TIL. Those are mostly cost-based buildings. So the federal AMI regulatory agreement is used in the ANCP program, the ELA program, mix and match program, NCP, supportive housing disposition, any HPD disposition of city-owned land, any project using LICA bonds, home, CD, block grants, federal section 8 and stuff like that. So that's one way, but then there's HPD has a program governance agreement. It has in parentheses TIL that does not trigger AMI. So I'm wondering if there are a program that HPD has that doesn't trigger AMI. Let's find out what it is.
So that we can ask them to come for a, some kind of an
And if
informational
we could
session.
use that, especially with the program, with the properties that they already own.
Yeah. Right, well, that will have to be available to the developer. But don't forget, it's the developer's job, even with getting the property from the city, to make the project financially feasible. You cannot build a building and not have it sustain itself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if,
That's how you.
right,
Not so much, and they gotta pay back a mortgage.
Right, but
Right.
then again, but if it's city owned, if it's city owned, you're not buying the.
right,
No,
but what
no,
happens, and no, that's not.
But, no, but what I'm trying to get is that of course, you have to regulate, you have to, put the rents to sustain the building. That's no ifs and buts about that.
Mhm.
So that's what you do, it not for profit. Only for sustainability with something in place to have money put aside. That's what you set your rents at. And although you.
Yeah,
do
the
get
reserves, you have to
Right,
have that
and
already. in
although
place.
you get the rents to go up every year, but if there's that option that it's not using AMI, is there another, is that an option? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but just kind of, I don't know what you mean by, this HPD owning it. They're trying to give the land, so like that, then you build it, is your responsibility, they'll give you the deed, and then you become the owner. That's what HPD does, they'll give you some monies, but then they'll regulate you too with what you're doing with that money that they're giving you. And that's how everything,
So is it a difference between that regulatory agreement and a governance agreement? I'm gonna do some more research.
yeah, but let me just say, HUD overlooks at everybody.
Right.
Everybody, they oversee everybody to make sure you're practicing the fair housing, that's why.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So these are questions, right? Read the AMI stuff
Yeah.
when you don't have anything else to do in your life, so that you have, so you get
squeeze it
a,
in.
right, so squeeze it in, so you get a better sense of what AMI means. That might lead you to more questions. Feel free to jot them down. We can compile them and try to get answers. I'll try to give you some information on Mitchell Lama, since we've mentioned Mitchell Lama a little bit, for the next meeting.
Quiet. We should
Right.
see how they do.
Right. So you see, we had a discussion with no presentation, we're just talking about AMI.
This is needed.
Right.
This is needed.
So the next thing we're gonna go,
You should give to everybody on the board.
oh,
You
yeah,
let
I'll
them
send it to
do
Angel.
3 minutes and.
Yeah. That's it.
direct
That's a good
attention
idea.
to it. 3 minutes, the 3 minutes.
He says if Nosa talks, it'll never be 3 minutes.
I know, that's not a word.
I know, but you're thinking of it, your ears wiggle a certain way. So, we're going to the next. Never just listen. Number 7 is the budget request submission form. The budget submission, request submission form is something that has come out of district needs and budget. And so what district needs and budget is trying to do is use this form and trying to get things to be populated ahead of time, ideas. If I'm missing something, Angel, please feel free to jump in. But this is something that the district needs and budget committee is trying to get ahead of the curve. As you see, sometimes we have meetings where it's a full board meeting and we have, a meeting so that the community come in and participate and tell us their needs, a public, right? A public commentary period. You're not helping at all. And so, but there's nobody there, right? Nobody has come. Angel sets the 3-minute timer and we wait. And nobody, yes, because last time it was Nosa. Right? And nobody comments. And we can, as hard as this board works, people are so busy with their lives and their jobs, and they're just holding on, that they're like, I don't want to come, I don't want to call no community board to tell them this. So if there's a way that each committee can push, right, the budget request submission form, like if you have an idea, or if you think this should be on district needs, whatever, right? So we can work in unison with whatever district needs and budget suggests and come up with a few ideas. But trying to push it in at every meeting, mention the budget request submission form so that people can engage. Because we
And
need
it's
to.
not just board members, I'm sorry.
Angel, no, Angel, go ahead. And then everybody, go ahead.
Stop doing that. Making me a complex. So, so with the form, yes, it's gonna give folks an opportunity throughout the year as they come up with ideas, both members and the public alike, to submit ideas via this form. The recommendations that come in via the form are then automatically channeled depending on the request type to the committee chair for the respective committees. It's then on the chair to decide whether they want to put that before the committee, for the committee to consider including that in the budget request that it submits in the fall for inclusion in the statement of needs. So the idea being that, okay, we submitted the budget request and the statement at the end of October, but then someone had a really, idea that's really, exciting them in January, and they won't get another chance until the fall to submit it. This gives them an opportunity to just put it in. It comes to the attention of the chair. There might be some crap ideas, so you just dismiss those, but there might be some good ones. And then it's up to the chair to say, hey, look, this month or since the last meeting, I've gotten 3 forwards from the form for, idea A, B, and C, what do you guys think? Let's talk about this. And you don't have to make a determination at that moment, but it's on the table and you keep talking it out. Maybe you flesh it out, maybe you thin it out. Ultimately, you can, you kind of hold those aside until the fall and make your decision. Okay, we're gonna, we've discussed these 15 requests and we've landed on these 10 that we're really hot for. And those are the ones that we're gonna add in. So that's the idea. So throughout the year, everybody gets an opportunity, because some were concerned that they didn't have an opportunity to submit budget request ideas. Now that I've said that part for you, my issue as the district manager is that the budget requests should not come out of thin air. The budget requests need to be justified, right? So I've always pushed you guys to identify the need and then identify the request, instead of trying to find the need to match the request. Because people who just request anything, give me a pony, and right? So long as we have both, we could keep both those thoughts in our heads as we're considering requests. I think that would be good. And because if we go through this exercise, which I think is good, and just push through ideas that aren't backed up by anything, they're gonna land with a dud like they always have when they go downtown. Right? Every time we submit something that we're all excited about at this table, yeah, we're gonna do this. And then we send it without a defense, and it gets down to DCP or OMB, they're like, and they ignore it. Every time.
No money, that's it.
Yeah. No, when further study,
Consider it.
right, so that kind of thing. So that's what the form's about.
You see how eloquently he said that, Candy?
So I was thinking, how to get the community to participate. Considering that this is a housing committee, maybe, it's just a thought, we can invite or send an email to all the housing complexes that we have in our community, writing to them, put a poster up or something stating, hey, we would like to get your idea as to, budgets before the budget time and what they would like to see in their community and all that kind of stuff. But how are we gonna get them to give us that? Like, are you gonna do it in job form, layman language, that it's not gonna be complicated? Those are the things that we wanna make sure that those that are not computer savvy, all that kind of stuff, like how we're gonna get that done.
Answer your own question. How are you going to do it?
Okay, so then that falls on us? Okay, so but this thing here is, every different committee is gonna figure out how they're gonna draw the
Promote
people
it,
to come in and promote it.
And then
Yeah.
we can do the best practices.
Well, then we'll kick the can and work with those ideas. But I'm just
Exactly.
saying that will be a way of us actually getting from
That's
the housing
part of the
committee.
agenda.
So
Get
I have a suggestion.
like yourself being one of the presidents of the resident association, right?
So I have a suggestion.
Go ahead, Ms.
Right.
Christina.
Don't hold that against everybody else.
Oh, no,
I know, right?
I'm just saying as an example that does it sound like a good idea that we can
Yes, it
just,
sounds like a good idea.
just.
So I have a distribution list. I would send it out to the people in my
Look
development.
at that, this distribution.
Although it does not connect to everybody, it connects to about 70 people, right? Which is a
For
start.
70s this time?
But I'm thinking, why don't we create some sort of form that the presidents can hand out at their meetings, right? Or just go to their neighbors and say, hey, can you fill this out for me? And collect the forms and go through what the ideas are. And we can kick the ones out that are duds.
And depending on how the form is, because I have to be honest, I haven't seen the section. I mean, I've seen, but we can just print that out, right? Because if the form has to be a certain format, maybe put some more language on the top of, like, if we're handing
Right.
it out, so that they understand
Stand
that
with
you're
it.
asking, you know, like I say, you need the address.
Presented at the tenants
And
meeting.
what is the concern? What is it that you like? And, you know, let's
I
say,
think the other part of it was to track things coming in, so over time, if there were similar things coming in, did we address it or not address it, right? But I think, as Angel said, it still goes back to the committee to decide, is this something we're gonna work on or not work on? And there's a lot of things we never get to, because we don't have the time or can't prioritize those things.
Right.
So it was a way of gathering the information and putting it together. I mean, I don't know, can it be printed where it can be given out? I guess that's
You
something.
know,
to-
I'm sorry,
You know.
another way to do it is a Google form.
No, well, that's what this is.
that's what this
No,
is.
but I'm saying, like, that one is for everybody, right? We have every separate committee could create their own.
No, this goes to each committee, so it goes, like, if there's a thing that comes about housing, it will go to this committee, it won't go to youth and education,
Mhm.
unless then maybe it was youth housing, you know,
No, it depends on the category.
of the,
Yeah, if you use the form.
Can we,
pull it up,
I'm gonna talk about.
Mhm.
Depending on the categories you pick,
Yeah.
it channels it to the corresponding
To the-
committee.
Oh, okay.
so it will come before
Right, it'll
the
come,
committee
yeah.
chair, and that's what
Okay.
I was saying, is then the committee chair, I'm on the budget. Not anymore. It will come where you, as you answer the questions, it will then determine which committee it goes to.
right,
Got you. Okay.
And we also talked about there be times where something may overlap, and you don't wanna miss it.
And just know that anything that we hand out paper-wise, it will be our responsibility to discuss. And I did say the chair and the vice chair would would have to type it into the form, so that it's consistent with how
Well,
the
somebody
district
has to
needs
type
a
it.
budget, right? Wanted it to work, you know,
Yeah.
it would be, we would type it in, it wouldn't be that the office staff or anything like that, when that would be us.
that's our
And it would
task.
be, right, it would be, you know,
I don't know, that is good job.
So if we
Yeah.
do the after,
I was just gonna say, is that something that we wanna do then? Cause then you would be.
well, we could do a
they
test,
have
we
no
could do a
choice, that's
test.
part of the.
Well, the idea is if you have something that comes up, you can go here, as Angel's doing now, and log on
And he's
to
gonna
the
show
form.
us.
yeah.
And then just fill out the information as a
Right,
community
so fix
member,
it.
as a community member, as a chair.
It's not with our families.
So you can,
Okay, so Angel's gonna show us now.
so you can find a link to the form, it's gonna be on every agenda every month, like it is this month, but if, you could also find it on the website. So you just go to about CB11, just scroll down to budget request form. It'll bring you to the form, it's a simple Google Doc, you add in your name, your information, so I'll do a test on it.
Yes, thank you.
Why are you laughing?
He's trying to hold on to that smile.
Stop asking me to be nice.
I know, it's hard.
You're gonna kill my reputation. So then you pick, you know, if you're a member, if you live in the community, blah, 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 I work in the community.
Mhm.
Right? And then it brings you to then you pick the category. All right, so in this case, it's housing. Next. And then type of need. Now this can get a little long. You guys are specifically housing, so it's a little. The next section is gonna be long.
Channel welfare.
So needs for housing, and here's where you give your summary.
Mhm.
I want a pony, right?
In my house.
I need a big backyard.
Sage is gonna see this, okay?
You gonna send it and submit it?
Yeah, I'm gonna be like, what's the pony? Okay, so then it gives you all the categories for needs for housing, right? So it's a little long, so maybe,
Ah,
to the point you guys were asking before, maybe this is the one you wanna print. and show all
Yes.
People, and then you can help them fill out the form.
Yeah,
So that we don't
especially
have things
meetings,
falling in the wrong
tenants
places.
meetings,
Like
right.
whoever's here.
So I'll pick, provide more housing for seniors, right? It's capital request.
With a pony.
Yes,
Please.
you need more housing, you can put the pony. And that's it.
Oh, okay,
that's
so it's
really
really
good.
simple.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
So,
then that gets channeled, you know, via
Mhm.
whatever
Then you
Sage
follow up.
did.
And then
And
it's
then
like
land
chicken.
that, so each committee has a designated email address, which is controlled by the chair of that committee. So that one will go to housing@cb11m.org, which goes to Nelson's attention.
mhm.
And then if she could read it, determine, you know, what she wants to do with it, whether she wants to bring it to your guys' attention or not.
So how about if we do a copy like that on
Right.
a regular paper? So when there's a resident association meeting and anybody
They
attends,
just fill it in and we
just
do it.
give it to the chair and just tell them, listen, by this time we'd like to pick it up. Give a deadline, you know, whenever their meeting is, and no matter how many people show up or didn't, they could still have that lead like that, and then for those that wanna have that opportunity to continue to do it, you can give it to them or let them go into the website, but at least they know that we're just starting something to do a survey right now, and then you get the paper, then we
And I
just
type it
count and
in.
see how many people said they wanna get X, Y, Z, and then we already know what is the actually district need, what's in their mind, including their kids, because the kids live in this community too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that input helps a lot.
So on this,
It's part of marketing.
Yes,
on-
Loretta.
On this form you're talking about, it will have where the resident could select. a
Yeah, the
date.
one,
Yeah,
that-
yeah,
that-
just
that-
show me.
that-
And they can write something in as well.
They can write something in there as well.
And then if they send, if it's hard copies and we get them back, then myself and Beverly, knows how we're a team, we'll type them in. And then we collate whatever it is and tell you everything we got, let's say in that meeting, the next meeting, and then we can start prioritizing like who, like what we have, you know, and so I think that's a good idea.
With everybody's ideas of everyone,
Mhm.
all the complexes, HDFCs, everybody that has some access to, you know, residents, yeah.
But
And even
I,
if there's an event going on,
Yeah.
let us have a table
Right.
there that we
Yes.
just.
With
That's
97, yeah.
and even at the meeting.
We
just
want your
start
opinion,
that,
a big
yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
you know?
At the meeting,
Okay,
so
so-
at the beginning,
Another,
we'll give you 15 minutes to do this survey for us before you start your agenda, instead of waiting till later on. Start at the beginning. 15 minutes, we need your help for the community, put this down, and then you'll start a meeting.
Okay,
That's how I'm gonna try to do for my building, you know.
So we
because
have-
They'll get tired and don't wanna do nothing. Get them at the door.
right, so we have ideas. Christina, you'll give us the last idea because we still have old business, so
it's
that
not,
we
a-
can wrap
it's not
up.
an idea, it's a point of information. We're
Okay.
having the Autism Awareness Walk next
Mhm.
week, and we're having table setups
Oh,
outside
that will be-
on the 17th. So if we can have that form ready, I will take a batch of them
Okay.
with me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, before we go to old business, I know this is kind of strange. I wanted to give you from WEAC, Marieli?
Yeah, Marciela.
Marcieli, I was close, and you was, do you have anything you'd like to say, or you just here to, just, yeah, I'll give you a minute or two to say something if you'd like.
But I have a NITO working group. We meet the last Monday of the month, and Christina's part of it as well. We're installing indoor temperature monitors to see how hot they get during the summer, and it's a stipend program. So if anybody is interested in being part of it, they have to live in Northern Manhattan, and they can email valentina.rojas@weact.org, and she'll be able to give you more information on that.
Okay.
Also, we have our membership meeting this Saturday at 10 a.m. at 454 West 155th Street. That's it.
Thank you, I just didn't want to take a chance of you not having, you've been so patient. And so we have old business, we have 325 Pleasant Avenue, the water meter issue, Jackie Robinson, the gas issue, which is ongoing, and the miles utilities issue. I don't know how much more we want to discuss it, we've discussed it in the past. We definitely have to follow up. There's gonna be a presentation next month that's coming here from Ascendant, regarding, their project. Christina?
The Miles is having, Assemblyman Gibbs is having a town hall for the Miles and Parker buildings
Okay.
on April 23rd. I'll tell you where we're at in a moment.
April 23rd. Parker and Miles.
Yes,
Flyers or
I
anything?
do, but they only, I didn't bring them with me, I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's enough that you
Okay,
tell us,
so
that you
this
can always
one
email.
Yeah, you
is,
can always give it to Angel and you
let's
put
see,
it on
Normandy
the website,
Court, Miles and Parker,
right?
PSMS 7, 160 East 127th Street. Thursday, April 23rd, 2026, from 5:30 to 7:30 PM. And I will forward those to you.
Thank you so
Okay?
much.
There's 6 of them.
Okay, so as you see, the word is getting around about certain issues that have come. Assemblyman is looking to at least have forums to hear. We will have a presentation regarding Jackie Robinson, trying to get more answers on that. And so,
Well, I
Loretta,
think-
would you like to add,
Yeah.
would you like to add something?
Yes, as far as the gas situation, and again, it's an ongoing issue, and we at the point now where, test drives has been done in both development, we got 2 developments. And after that, Con Edison comes and do their work, and that's the final decision, whether we're gonna get our gas back right in the air.
Okay,
Or they have to do the whole process again.
thank you for letting us know. It's, it's a question.
Check your phone.
So this is an ongoing issue. We're gonna continue to follow up. Nothing gets resolved in one meeting, and not all the information comes in one meeting. So I'm so thankful that, Loretta, you're here and keeping us informed of, especially what you're living through. And so we're gonna see about following this up. We have a very proactive chair, and, and we have an amazing office staff who helps, us keep track of this stuff and really contact the right people. So with that, that's all I'm gonna say on the old business.
I have a question for yourself.
Okay.
Loretta, in regards to what was done already, the risers have been checked in all buildings. And thus far, that vendor did not find any issues. They're
No.
just getting verified by Con Edison that those risers are okay to turn the gas back on. Is that
That's the last process. I
Right.
wait for Con Edison to come.
to verify what
Okay.
That
vendor?
everything is.
Okay. Okay.
Because CNC did have some of its workers going to each unit, and, any leaks were repaired the same day.
Oh, okay, no, okay, great.
Right. Okay, so,
So
all right.
hopefully, we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Well, we're all gonna cross our fingers, cross our toes, and cross our eyes,
And
because,
pray on it.
and pray, and that's the first step. So we're gonna continue on this, that we've been talking about this and different things. I wanna thank everybody for participating so much. One more thing, because then we gotta wrap up.
Okay, and regard to 325, I know we had reached out, to the water company. So we just wanna follow through on that.
Okay. So we'll follow up,
Yeah.
if we didn't get a
Okay.
response, we'll follow up with
Yeah,
that.
to see how that works.
Okay.
So what was the story with the water meter with them?
They had,
I'm sorry, I
No, no.
knew you wanted to.
No, because, yeah.
they had,
Mhm.
a water bill that was kind of crazy.
I'm telling you, water company the water board does not forgive, they don't
Mhm.
Yeah, so they
Oh,
wanted
that's
do a
to have
payment
me-
plan, but they're not giving you no.
So they want
No,
the clarity and research and
want their money.
stuff. And some of it, they had a meeting, and some of it looks like it could be legit, and so, the management company has been talking to them, and so that's, just more clarity is needed, and to ensure any follow-up
Yeah, 'cause
that
they
they
don't have
want us to.
access to the building, they'll also
Yeah,
do a
right,
test.
and they had a change of
Yeah.
management too, that
Right.
that they weren't getting.
And then that management does not, register the building, is a problem with the
Right.
water. Yeah.
So those are things that is gonna be continuing old business. The budget submission form is gonna stay on our agenda. We'll see about printing out copies So for, the autism walk for you to have, and that would be our first test, right? To see if, written copies, how we handle them and,
Yes.
and how, so that's gonna be our first test. With that, there's no new business because new business has been throughout the whole presentation where we talked about AMI and stuff like that. And so with that, Angel, roll call.
So,
Mhm.
Roll call.
I'll have anything?
No, no, no.
I
No.
heard you.
I'm sorry.
No,
I thought you did that. I ain't gonna say myself that you have papers right there.
That's right. I know that.
Sorry.
Committee members, when I call your name, please answer. President Marie Charles,
Present.
David Giordano, James Gray, John Gordon is absent, Christina Johnson,
Present.
James Lynn is absent. Hold on. Jessica Morris is absent, Noso Rama,
Present.
Beverly Pabon,
Present.
Don Sanders is absent, Loretta So, and Candy Vivas Vasquez.
Present.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being part of our meeting today and for your participation. And I look forward to your continued participation with our agendas and things like that. Thank you so much. Have a good night.